All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Tony Martinez, and I'm going to be training today on annuities and how they work. First thing that I want to tell you before I begin this is the following. What I'm doing right now is nothing more than mere training to someone who doesn't understand how annuities work, index annuities in particular, doesn't understand how taxes work. This is not a video that you want to be sending to actual prospective clients. This is not me giving any kind of blanket recommendation. I believe wholeheartedly that every single client should have the respect of having a one-on-one meeting with a specialist, someone certified to train, someone certified to talk about these types of products, to really understand what the person's objectives are, what their time horizons are, what their risk tolerances are, what all that stuff is before an actual recommendation is made. Today's training is 100% for someone that says, hey, I want to kind of know an overview of how things work, because at that point in time, and once I have that kind of foundation, I can then contact the insurance companies that I represent, and I can start learning specifically about those types of annuities that each of those companies have. So I want to give that disclosure out. If you want to learn more, right, on a one-on-one basis, give me a call. My number is 239-784-1118, 239-784-1118. If somebody sent you this video because you're possibly looking into getting into the insurance industry, but yet you want to make sure whatever organization you represent is giving you the right type of training and development, and they're really focused in on that portion of the business, so you don't have to bake bread before you run a bakery, right? You don't have to sell insurance before you run an insurance agency. Then obviously get back with that person that sent you that video. And I apologize, I'm not very big about, graphics and backgrounds and images. As long as, my opinion is, as long as the message is being delivered, then this is doing its deed. But let's talk about annuities today. The first thing I want to talk about with annuities is I need you guys to understand something. Annuities is nothing more than the vehicle you're putting the money in. A lot of people say, that it's the investment. It's not the investment. It's also not the tax code. Believe it or not, there's 3 components to designing an actual investment where money gets placed. Okay, there's 3 components, right? So the first component is, what's the tax code? How is Uncle Sam treating that money? The second component is, what are the investments? And then the third component is the vehicle that those investments sit in. Okay? So let's break them each down. What tax codes are around? Well, there's a couple. There's non-qualified. A non-qualified tax code is money that's already been taxed. It's money that it's paycheck money is how I like to explain it. Meaning you earned it, and then Uncle Sam took money out of your paycheck, and then what's left is your net, right? They took out money for Social Security, for FICA, for all that stuff. That net amount is non-qualified money, okay? That's one tax code. Second tax code is what? Qualified. Well, Tony, what the heck is a qualified tax code? Qualified tax codes are tax codes where the government has given you some type of a benefit in exchange for something, right? So like an IRA, a 401k, a 403b, IRA, individual retirement account, 401k, retirement account created from an employer, 403b, retirement account created from a non-for-profit organization, right? Like a school or a church or a government entity. Those are qualified accounts because they're not taxing you on the money right now. They're taxing you later. They're saying to you, hey, put the money in here. We're going to be blind to that money today. We're not going to tax that money at all. We're going to tax you later on when you retire. That way you don't have to feel the tax burden right now. You can feel it later, right? That's qualified money. There's another type of qualified money called Roth. Roth IRAs or Roth 401ks are equally called qualified money because they're still giving you something in exchange for something, right? So what they're giving you is tax-free money later. They're saying, hey, pay taxes today. So the money going in is post-tax money but it's because it's going into a Roth investment, all of the earnings that you're making are completely and utterly tax-free. You don't got to pay a lick of taxes on that money when you draw that money out, as long as you're doing it the right ways, and there's different rules and regulations to each one of them. But that's kind of the general synopsis, right? These are the tax codes that you're dealing with. So whenever you're dealing, again, we're focusing on annuities. You got to find out, is the annuity a qualified annuity? Is the annuity a non-qualified annuity? Right? Am I bringing money into an annuity that I'm trying to sell, and am I making that annuity qualified or not qualified? It all depends where the money's coming from. Where the money's coming from, right? Now you might say, well, Tony, non-qualified money, how does it get taxed? Well, it gets taxed on the front end, right? Paycheck money, that rate's already been taxed. And all of your earnings later down the line are taxed as capital gains. Capital gains is a lot lower than earned income. Just know that piece. I'm not going to dig deeper into that, but this is something you need to know. So when you're talking to people and you know that they have money, one of the first questions I ask them is, where's the money at? Is it in a 401k? Is it in an IRA? Is it in the bank? Right? Because I need to know, is it qualified or is it non-qualified money? That's important for me to know, right? The next piece is the investment. Where is the money actually, being invested into, so that you could have the earnings that you want, or potentially the losses that you don't want, right? So there's three types. There's fixed investments. Fixed investments are things like CDs, money markets, an interest rate that's given to you on a fixed basis based on some type of a measurement, right? There's variable investments. Those are things like individual stocks, bonds. Variable means there's no guarantee. You can make money, you can lose money depending on how that investment operates, right? And then there's a third type of investment called indexed. Indexed investments are things like the S&P 500, S&P 500 are things like the Barclays index. There's a lot of different ones. What's an index, Tony? An index is nothing more than a measurement of a collective group of investments, and that measurement is the change from one point to another. So for example, the S&P 500 is the most common one, right? The S&P 500 is a measurement of the top 500 companies, right? So we're talking about General Electric, we're talking about the big dogs, the gurus. Now, when you're making a return based on the index, what it is, it's what's the average return of all of these 500 companies. And if it started here on day one, and then 365 days later, it ends up here, that's a positive index because it goes up. If that index goes down, then it's a negative index, it goes down. When you index money and you say, listen, if the index goes down from where it started, I'm not going to lose anything. I want nothing to do with those losses. But if the index goes up from where it started, I want those gains. I want to win when the game is good. I don't want to lose when the game is bad. Okay? That's indexing. Now, how you earn, every company's going to be a little different. Some companies are by participation. Some companies are by caps. A cap is like, you're not going to make more than 9%. Well, wait a minute. If the index makes 12%, does that mean I walk away from anything over 9? Yes. But in exchange, you're not responsible for any losses if the index is down, right? Participation means, I'm making 150% participation. That means that if the index is up by 10%, you're going to get 150% of 10%, which means you make 15%. If you're getting 90% of the index, for example, and the index ends at 10% increase, and you're getting 90% of the 10%, that means you're only getting 9/10 of that 10%, which means you make a 9% return. That's a participation. And every company, again, is different. Again, I'm not honing in on any one particular company. I just want you to understand how these work. But you need to know the tax code. You need to know what type of investment the person wants to go in. And then we talk about the vehicle that the money's going to go in. What vehicles are available? There's bank vehicles, which again are things like CDs, money markets, right? There's investment vehicles, right, by what's called broker accounts, right? A brokerage, we'll call it a brokerage account. And then there's a third vehicle called annuities. Well, Tony, wait a minute. Annuities, I thought all annuities were risky, or I thought all annuities were in that. No, annuities just the vehicle you're putting the money in. You got to give that annuity instructions. You got to tell that annuity, are you qualified or non-qualified? Well, where's the money coming from? Is it coming from a 401k or an IRA? Then it's qualified. Is it coming from a bank account? Then it's non-qualified. Okay, cool. You know, I got a client, he's got $50,000 sitting in an old employer account. He wants to move it over. Okay, good. That's a qualified annuity. Now you got to say, okay, well, what investments do I want inside of that annuity? Are they going to be fixed? Are they going to be variable? They're going to be indexed, right? Fixed would be a qualified fixed annuity. Variable would be a qualified variable annuity. Index would be a qualified index annuity. Do you see how you can kind of mix and match? You know, you can kind of, you know, so the first thing I need to do whenever I'm talking with a client, I need to find out where the money's at. Because that starts to tell me what my options are. And by that, I now can do a process of elimination, right? Person tells me, listen, my money's sitting in an IRA. I know for sure that non-qualified is not an option. It's an IRA. Okay, Mr. Client, that IRA, are you being taxed now or are you being taxed later on that IRA? No, I'm being taxed later. They haven't taken taxes out. Okay, so I know I'm removing Roth as an option. Now I know it's a qualified solution. Then I got to go, okay, Mr. Client, what's your risk tolerance? How much risk do you want to take on that money, right? You want to get a fixed interest rate where it's a predictable number. You know exactly what you're going to make no matter what every single year. Positive to that, it's safe. Negative to that, it doesn't really make a big rate of return. It makes maybe 1.5%, right? No, I don't want that. Okay, I'm going to remove fixed, right? I'm going to then look at my licenses. Do I have a license to even sell and solicit variable? Because you need a securities license to do variable. I don't have a securities license, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remove that. And listen, I'm going to tell you right now, if I deal with a client that tells me their risk tolerance is very high, they want to take market risks, they don't want to make, 5, 6, 7%, they want to make 13, 14, 15%, and they're willing to take on risk, you know what I do? I tell them I can't help them. That's not something that I can help with. You need to talk to an investment advisor, financial advisor. That's what you need to talk to. Someone with a securities license. Okay? Now, tip for you, if you're going to give advice to other people, you never advise them to one person. You advise them to 3 or 4. You tell them, here's 3 or 4 people that I do know. I would recommend you talk to them, interview them, and figure out which one you want to go with. You don't want to give them only one, because if you give them only one and that person does them wrong, you could come back and be liable because you gave that advice. It's crazy, but that's the way the industry works. But if you give 3 or 4 and they choose, they can pick which one it is. You kind of shield yourself. Like, listen, I gave you multiple options. Okay. So variable, I take it out of the mix. Index, Mr. Client, do you want your money to grow with the market when the market is up and doing well, but not participate with the market when the market does poorly? Meaning you go up when the game is good, but you don't go down when the game is bad. Is that something you'd be interested in? Well, yeah, that'd be pretty intriguing. Okay. So now I know I got a qualified indexed. So what products do I have available? What are my vehicles that I can sell? Well, I don't work at a bank, so I can't sell them a CD or a money market. Plus, indexed CDs, indexed money markets don't exist. At least I don't believe they exist. If they do, it's something pretty new. They don't exist. So I know if they want indexed, and I know if they want qualified, right? There's 2 options. It's a brokerage and an annuity. Tony, can we really put index money in a brokerage account? We can't if we don't have securities licenses. But someone with a securities license can. They can put them in index funds in a brokerage account. Or if you have the insurance license, like most of us do, you can put them into an indexed annuity. That's an option. So now the formula is it's a qualified indexed annuity, right? I mean, with a client that says to me this, says, Tony, you know, listen, Tony, the money that I have is from a settlement, right? I received money for a settlement and I'm trying to figure out what to do with it, right? Okay. So settlement means it's non-qualified money. It's not sitting in an IRA or a Roth IRA or a 401k or a 403. It's not sitting, it's automatically non-qualified, right? Now I'm in my 50s and, you know, I'm getting myself ready for retirement. Well, Mr. Client, how much risk are you willing to take with that money? Right? Because there's three places you can put it. I can put it into a fixed environment, which is steady Eddie, predictable rate of return. It's not going to go higher than like 1%, 1.5%. You know exactly what you're going to make, but you're not going to make a lot of money on it. No, I don't really want that. We can go into the market. You know, if you put your money directly into the stock market, you can go up with the market, but you can lose with the market. 2008 was a really rough year. People lost a lot of money. I don't know if you remember, but March of 2020, there was a 31% drop in just the month of March. Did it recover? It did, but I just want to know, is that some type of risk you're willing to take? No, I don't want that risk. I'm in my 50s. I'm about to retire. I shouldn't be that aggressive. Okay, so have you ever heard of indexing before? No, what's indexing? Well, index funds it's an investment vehicle that allows you to earn money with the market when the market goes up and not lose money when the market goes down. So you get the best of the best, but you have nothing to do with the losses as long as you're willing to take on certain caps. Well, what's a cap? The cap basically means that, you know, let's say you're at a 9% cap. If the market makes 12, you're going to make 9. You're not going to make 12. But in giving up that high-end cap, you also have nothing to do with the losses. So if the market goes down, you're not going to lose anything. Well, that sounds pretty good. Okay, good. So we're talking about a non-qualified index, right? And then what we have accessible to is annuities. I don't like to not talk to them about other options. I want them to know that I'm willing to talk to them about other options. Now, not securities license doesn't mean I can't talk about a brokerage account. Doesn't mean I can't talk about how variable investments work. It just means that I can't give them advice about the stocks and the bonds. But I could talk to them like an overview what it is. I just can't give advice into those. You need a securities license to have that. And I'm telling you this firsthand. I had securities licenses. I let them go because it just wasn't an environment I wanted to be in. I'm a field agent. I want to be on the field. I don't want to be looking at the stock market every single day, you know, making investment decisions for people's money. I just didn't want that, right? But I can talk. I can overview talk about how they work, okay? Now, before I keep going, are there any questions? Anybody have any questions? No? Yes? Maybe? Okay, I'm going to keep going.
I have a question.
Go for it.
Tony, so let's say somebody is in good health and they could get an IUL. What do you think is better, you know, overfunding an IUL or doing an annuity?
Good health. Okay, so good question. That's a phenomenal question, actually. That's a question I get asked all the time. So you have to understand the difference with both, right? An IUL is an insurance vehicle that has life insurance that does have a savings account that grows according to an index. IUL is a great solution for someone that, number one, has a need for insurance, and number two, wants to make monthly contributions. Number three, wants to get access to the money before 59.5. That's a great solution. Why do I say it that way? Because indexed annuities is not your typical put a monthly contribution in there. That's more like I have a lump sum of money and I want to invest it long term. It also, every annuity, doesn't matter if it's qualified or non-qualified, every annuity, no matter what, you will be having to follow the 59.5 rule, which means you can't touch this money before 59.5 without paying some type of a penalty, right? So whenever I'm talking to a client and they have a lump sum of money, first off, if they don't have a lump sum of money, I'm leaning more towards the IUL, and I'm explaining to them the benefits of it along with the insurance necessities of it. As long as the amount of money they're putting in validates getting an IUL. For example, if the person's in their 50s, 60s, I'm seldom going to seldom going to recommend an IUL, just because an IUL does require a good 20 to 30 years of compounding growth in order for it to make sense. At that point in time, I'll find them an indexed annuity that allows monthly contributions, and I'll make that a Roth IRA for the tax-free benefits. But if I deal with a client in their 30s and 40s, and they can make monthly contributions because they don't have a lump sum, 90% of the times the IUL is going to be a better solution, because they also equally have an insurance need. Now, if the person has zero insurance need whatsoever, or maybe they don't qualify for the insurance because of medical reasons, then I'm going to lean them towards the indexed annuity. If the person has lump sum money, 90% of the times I'm going to lean them towards an indexed annuity, because through fact finding, I learned what they're trying to accomplish. But the biggest thing that you want to know is the IUL gives access to money before 59.5 and has insurance attached to it, right? The cost is the cost of the insurance, right? They have to know that there's a cost. They recover that cost long-term with the way the index, with the way the indexing performs. You can recover that cost and make more money than the index. The annuity has no insurance coverage in place whatsoever. There could be zero cost whatsoever, which is why a lot of times it makes sense for someone who has a lump sum of money. Does that help answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Tony, this is Tanisha Coffee. I have a quick question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
What is the minimum? You're saying a lump sum. So what kind of money are you talking about?
Yeah, so good question. Every company has different amounts. Some companies will let you start with just $100 a month if they want to make monthly contributions. Some companies say you got to start with a minimum of $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. Every company is different with regards to lump sum. I've learned personally, I typically deal with people that have 20,000 or higher. 20,000 or higher is kind of the number I look for when it comes to these types of solutions. But are there solutions where people only have 10,000 and 5,000? Of course there is. It's just finding the company that has those minimums. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. My rule of thumb, I'll tell you, and it's not always this way, so I don't want to make a blanket statement. I'm not making a blanket statement, but I'm saying the majority of the people that I've dealt with, if they're making monthly contributions, typically the IUL is the solution for them. If they have lump sum money, typically the indexed annuity is going to be the solution. Again, as long as their risk tolerances is in alignment with indexing strategies, as long as the person making a monthly contribution also has a need for insurance coverage, and as long as the person putting the money into the indexed annuity can give up one thing. One thing you have to understand about every single one of these annuities, whether it's index, fixed, variable, whatever, is that it's long-term. That's the one thing they have to understand. Someone tells me, listen, I got $100 grand, I want to invest it, but I want that money back in 3 years. Annuity is not your answer. Because that's the one thing annuity is not. It's not a short-term vehicle. It is a long-term vehicle. When I say long-term, that long-term is variable based on the person's objectives. But the biggest thing is that it's meant more for retirement than anything. It's not that people can't get it pre-retirement, because you can, and there's ways to do that. But the majority of your market is going to be more for retirement than anything. Okay, so hopefully this helps. I'm gonna keep going. So as long as I learn, these are the 3 components that I need to know. Does somebody have another question? They're cutting grass outside. I don't know if y'all hear that. It's like perfect timing. Yeah. Anyway, let me keep going. Okay. So now let's talk about how the annuity actually works itself. Okay. Rules to an annuity. Number 1, every annuity is always going to have the 59.5 rule, which means you cannot tap into this money until 59.5 unless you want to pay a penalty. Now, there's ways to bypass the 59.5 rule, and the ways are pretty simple, right? The annuity also has, let me tell you another feature of the annuity. Annuities have 2 to 3 methods to pay out. The first method is lump sum, take my money and go. The second method is annuitization, which I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of, and I'll explain why later. And the third is exercising a rider called a withdrawal benefit rider, which is similar to annuitization with a little bit more control of the money, right? So the only way you can take money out before 59 and a half, and not on all, you have to check with the company to make sure they allow this. The only way to take money out before 59 and a half without a penalty is through the process of annuitization. Annuitization means, Mr. Insurance Company, I'm going to give up all rights to this lump sum of money. But in exchange, you're going to pay me a paycheck for the rest of my life forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever until the day I die. And if I die prematurely, you can keep the lump sum of money that I never used. It's not very attractive. Now, there's things called period certains. I'm not going to dig deeper into that piece. Period certain just basically says, give me a lifetime stream of income with a 10-year period certain. So if I die within 10 years, you give my family the rest of the balance. But if I die on year 10 in one day, you can keep whatever balance I haven't used. Right? That's an annuitization. I don't like that because the moment you annuitize, you can't go back. You sign on that dotted line, you accepted a lifetime income stream. That's what's going to be forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. You can't change it. A lump sum is, hey, give me my lump sum. Simple to understand. Give me my lump sum of money, I'm going to reinvest it. You can take half of it, a portion of it, all of it, whatever you want. Give me my lump sum. You can't, this has limitations as well too. If the annuity is still during its, what's called its surrender period, which is a time period. I explained that as well. The rider, however, is something I do like, the withdrawal benefit rider, because the withdrawal benefit rider says, listen, I want to take money out on a lifetime basis like it was an annuitization, but I want to always know that if I pass away and I have some money left over, I can leave that for my family no matter what. No matter what. And I want to know that I could stop this income and go back to lump sum at any point in time if I want to. The withdrawal benefit rider gives you that feature. Now, a rider sometimes has a cost. Sometimes it doesn't. You got to check with the company and see, does it have a cost? Does it not have a cost? 90% of the time when I sell an indexed annuity, it's because of that rider right there. So this is overwhelming in regards to training. Just remember this one right here. The withdrawal benefit rider gives the client the ability to take out a lifetime stream of income without compromising the lump sum of money. If you pass away, you leave your family with the remaining balance, if there is a remaining balance. You could stop that lump sum and go, you could stop this rider and go back to the balance at any time without anybody telling you no. And I work with a lot of companies that don't even charge anything for this rider. They don't even charge anything for the rider. Okay? So 59 and a half applies to every annuity. Is there a way to tap into this money before 59 and a half? Yes, but only through annuitization. Where is this common? Athletes. It's very common for athletes. Think about it. An athlete has a career shelf life of what? 30 to 34 years of age. A good majority of them, their expertise in their profession is their sport. They don't want to go into the real world and work a regular job. If anything, they want to start opening up businesses and stuff like that. So a lot of athletes are advised, take some of that millions of dollars that you've gotten in contracts, put it into an annuity, a non-qualified annuity, right? And then annuitize it when you hit retirement, because the annuitization is going to give you a salary for the rest of your life, no matter how long you live. Does that make sense? That type of career, it kind of makes sense because they're in their 30s. Very seldom athletes get into their 40s, but they've got so much more life ahead of them. And they cannot acclimate themselves 90% of the times to just going and getting a job. When you imagine like a pro football player suddenly gets a job as a personal banker? No, most of them get into business, but the annuitization gives them a salary. That's where you find a lot of that, right? Some people will invest into non-qualified annuities because they have lump sum money, and they'll say to themselves, well, am I going to pay a penalty if I take this money before 59 and a half? Yes. And they'll say, I'm still going to do it because the penalty is still less. That penalty is still less than the amount of money that I earned. And by the way, that penalty is only on the earnings, not the principal. Only on the earnings, not the principal. So if someone puts 100 grand in and turns that 100 grand into 250, let's say, and then they want to take that money out before 59 and a half, they'll pay, let's say, a 10% penalty on the earnings. So if they started with 100 grand and they have 250, the earnings is 150,000. You multiply that by a 10% penalty, that's a $15,000 penalty. They look at it and they say, well, I put 100 grand in and I made 135,000. It's worth it, but they got to know that that exists. They got to know that that exists. And all I'm talking about right now is some of the features inside of most annuities, just kind of a blanket training, right? And you need to know those because you might deal with, like if you deal with real estate investors, right? Those guys love to make lump sum money and flip it, make lump sum money and flip it. You're showing them an alternative. You're saying, listen, you're in your 40s. What if you could take that 100 grand and put it in here, right? This particular index annuity has a 7-year surrender period. After 7 years, you could potentially have made this much money. If you want to take that money out, you'll pay a 10% penalty on your earnings, but look, you still made a profit, and you can reinvest it somewhere else. That's a conversation you can have. You just got to give full disclosure. Okay. So this is one component to every annuity. This is another component to every annuity. The third component to every annuity is the surrender period. And I'm going to say this: it's not every annuity. Variable annuities sometimes don't have a surrender because they have a front load charge. They charge a percentage up front in order not to have a surrender. Well, Tony, what the heck is a surrender? A surrender is a time period where you've committed to saying, Mr. Insurance Company, I'm going to keep my money in here during this time period. If I take my money out during that time period, I'm going to pay a fee called a surrender fee. Okay? This time period could be 7 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 14 years. Who knows what it could be? But regardless of your age, if you're within if you're within the surrender penalty, you have to know there's going to be a fee that I'm going to pay if I take the lump sum money out. Now, if within this time period I hit 59 and a half years of age and I want to exercise the withdrawal benefit rider, I can without a penalty. This surrender charge is more in reference to taking lump sum money out of the plan within that time period. Okay? Now, another feature to the annuities is a penalty-free percentage. During your surrender period, you're also allowed, typically, not everyone, typically you're allowed 10% that you could take out every single year, penalty-free. It gives you a little bit of liquidity. So imagine the person that puts in 100 grand into an annuity, it's got a 10-year surrender, and on year 2, he needs access to money. He could technically take out 10% penalty-free from the annuity. Now, if it's an IRA and the person isn't 59 and a half years of age, the government's going to charge him a penalty because he took out IRA money, but the insurance company won't charge him a penalty because he's allowed to take out 10% every year penalty-free within that surrender period. Does that make sense? Okay. These are the types of rules that you need to learn. And yes, I know sometimes it can get confusing, and you might say to yourself, well, wait a minute, like, this scenario calls for this scenario calls for this scenario calls for that. I'll be 100% honest with you guys. It took me a solid, probably 7 years of working with people before I felt comfortable doing annuities on my own. Because you're right, there's 5 different. What about this? 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 You know what I'm saying? Like this is just that you got to learn it. You got to learn it. You got to study it. You got to understand it. You got to understand it no matter what. Okay. Before 59 and a half, there's always going to be some type of a penalty if you tap into the money, unless you annuitize it and take a full lifetime income stream and relinquish your rights to the lump sum. Within the surrender period of time, regardless of how young or how old, that's the first 7 years, first 10 years, first 14 years, whatever that is, okay, there's going to be a penalty, a surrender penalty, okay, within that time period. And the only way to avoid that penalty is you could take out typically 10% every year without a penalty, or if you're over 59 and a half, you can exercise the withdrawal benefit rider and start drawing money out. But if you want to take out the lump sum of money and you're within surrender penalty, you got to let this one be a penalty. Those are just the rules to annuities in general, okay? Any questions before I give you my presentation that I give to the clients to really help them understand how this works? All right? Okay. So, actually, before I give you the presentation, let me teach you on one other thing, okay? Imagine, I want you to understand how money gets taken out, how money gets taxed in an annuity, because that's important to understand. If it's IRA money, all of it is untaxed income. The money went in wasn't taxed, the earnings wasn't taxed, therefore when you take money out, it's all gonna come to you as a 1099. You earned that money that year, you'll pay taxes according to wherever taxes are, okay? If it's non-qualified money, okay, non-qualified money means that the money went in there was already post-tax, it's already been taxed, it's not gonna get taxed again. Your earnings, you're gonna pay taxes on it as capital gains, right? Because that's not earned income, that's capital gains tax, which is about 10 to 12%, somewhere around there. It changes from year to year. However, how does, if you got portion of the money that's, if a portion of the money is non-qualified, can't be taxed, and a portion of the money is the earnings, capital gains, how does the money come out? Like, I don't understand how it comes out. This is how it comes out. Imagine this is a cake. This is a cake, right? What goes on top of a cake? Anybody?
Frosting.
I said frosting, we said sprinkles.
And then a cherry on top, right? Okay. So yeah, what goes on top of a cake is the frosting, right? Sprinkles, right? And then a cherry. Not a cherry, but that's a cherry nonetheless. Okay? Okay. This base, right? In Spanish, we call it what? What do we call that base, mama? La masa, I think is whatever, the base, right? The cake itself. This is the money that you put in. This is the principal. Did I spell that right? No. Damn, I spelled that ugly. This is the principal. Principal, yes, okay. This frosting is your earnings. How do you slice a cake? From left to right or top to bottom? Top to bottom, right? So when you're slicing a cake, you slice it this way. Which means if these slices represent a year's worth of income that you're taking out every year, year's worth of income, that means that a part of that money is the principal, non-taxable. The other part of that money is capital gains that you'll pay 10 to 12%. That's attractive because let's say this slice, let's call it big numbers, let's say it's $50,000 a year, maybe 40,000 of it is principal, can't be taxed. The other 10,000 is earnings, right? And you only have to pay 10 to 12% on 10,000 versus 10 to 12% on 50,000. That's something that you need to know. Does that make sense? I'm gonna really talk to this landscaping company, man. They're killing me here with that noise in the background. I don't know if y'all hear it or not, but I do. Well, y'all don't hear it, even better. I'm glad y'all don't, because I do. My ADD is on point right now. So, but that's something you need to know. That's how the cake is sliced. Okay. Now let me give you the presentation. So before I give this presentation, I always want to know a couple points of data. Number one, I want to know how much money they have in lump sum. I want to know that. Number two, I want to know, is it qualified or non-qualified? I want to know that, okay? Number three, I want to know is what is their long-term hold? Meaning, how long are they willing to let that money sit there before they need it? I need to know that. That's important for me to know. Number four, I need to know their age. The reason I need to know their age is because I need to understand how close are they to 59. I need to know that. For example, if I'm dealing with a 65-year-old woman, it's going to be hard for me to sell them something that has a 14-year surrender period if that's her only asset. Think about it. She's 65. Can she really wait until she's 80 to tap into this money? No. I need to know that stuff. That information is important. So how much money, qualified or unqualified, long-term hold, how long you wanted to let it sit there, what's your current age, and then lastly, what's your risk tolerance? How aggressive or conservative do you want to be? Somebody had a question. I heard them.
That's me. So what would you do at that point if it's somebody that it's over the age of 60?
Okay.
And that's
so what I would do is I would want to find something that has a shorter surrender period, like 5-7 years. I want to fact find more because I want to see if there's other assets they have, like, are they getting a pension from somewhere? Are they getting Social Security? Because at the end of the day, I need to make sure that they don't need this money for whatever time period it's going to sit there. The only reason that they would tap into it a 1.5 years, 2 years, 3 years would be to exercise the withdrawal benefit rider and pension that money out basically and take out a lifetime stream. That's the only thing that that would allow me to justify, which a lot of the times, you can justify that and you can even show the insurance company, look, Mr. Insurance, it has a 7-year surrender period, but it also has a withdrawal benefit rider, which lets the client tap into it, 2 years from now. And the objective of this policy, the objective of this annuity is to generate lifetime income. So that helps you validate, justify that it's a suitable recommendation. Because honestly, that's the thing that the insurance companies are looking for. Is this a suitable recommendation? That is what you need to prove to them in order to get this approved. Is this a suitable recommendation? The last question.
Tony.
Yes.
My friend's mother was already over 60. I don't know what age she was, but she rolled over her 401k into an annuity, and it was an immediate withdrawal. She annuitized it, so she's getting her monthly payment until she dies, but it was immediate.
Yeah, you could do that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Because you just said that you just said that the shortest one is 7 years or something like that, didn't you?
The shortest on the surrender period, correct, is 7 years. You can do an immediate annuitization if it calls for that. You're right. You're not going to run into those too often. But yeah, if you come across a client that says, listen, I got $400,000 and I want to be able to take money out right away, then yeah, just like I had said a little bit earlier, what you have to prove is that suitability, that time period, unless a person wants to annuitize and take money out within first year, second year, or in your scenario, immediate. That's the only validation to an older person putting money into an annuity that has a long surrender period is that the person doesn't intend on letting it sit there for that time period. They wish to start drawing income out in a short period. Because if the client said to me, No, I have 400,000 in there, but I only want to let it sit there for 2 years because after that, I want to reinvest the entire lump sum somewhere else. There's not an annuity on the planet that would approve it. But if the person says, I want to take out income from that product, right, on a yearly basis, monthly basis, or whatever, and either it's immediate or it's 1 year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, then it's a suitable recommendation. Does that make sense?
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Cool. The last thing I want to know is liquidity. Here's what liquidity means. Mr. Client, when I take this money of yours and put it into this annuity and I lock it up, right? Lock it up during that surrender period, you have other assets, meaning liquidity that you could tap into in the event of emergencies, medical emergencies, other things like that. I'm going to give you guys a tip. Most insurance companies want to see that after the money is inside of the annuity that they have at least $20,000 of liquid money elsewhere. Liquidity elsewhere. Why do they want that? Because they want to know that the annuity is not going to be the first place they tap into. Because if they tap into the annuity short term, what are they going to have to pay? Surrender fees. Yes, I see a question.
20,000 minimum in liquid.
A lot of companies is 20,000 minimum. There's some companies that want a 10,000 minimum, but I'll be honest with you, the ones that we're playing with right now have a $20,000 minimum. These companies are getting a lot more regulated, guys, and it's logical. Think about it. 43% of the United States right now are baby boomers. They're all hitting retirement. They want to make sure if you're going to put money into an annuity and you're going to let it sit there for a period of time, they want to know you have other assets you can tap into. Now, I'll tell you this now from a business side, right? If I'm the insurance company, I don't want people to put money in and then pull it out. I'm not trying to make money on surrender charges. Number one, it's a bad taste in the client's mouth. No matter what, even if they knew about it before, it's always going to be a bad taste if they have to during. And no insurance company wants to show that they're making profits on surrender penalties. Number two, they want the client to leave the money with the insurance company a long time because the insurance company is taking that money and investing it in places. Remember, the insurance company has to make a profit in order for you to make a profit. So you want to put your money within a company that's making profits because if they're making profits, they're paying you profits. A company that's not making money on your money won't be in business long. It won't. These are not non-for-profit organizations. If they're going to pay you X amount of interest, it's because they're making money as well too. If they're not making money, you're not making, and they need you to be willing to put that money and leave it with them for whatever that surrender period of time is, because they've got to flip it and make their profits, knowing that when they pay you your profits, whether it's through a lifetime stream of income or through a lump sum, they still walked away with a profit. They made money. And that surrender period is what gives them that time period to do that. Does that make sense? Yeah? Good. So these right here,
Tony, I think
nothing about annuities. Nothing about annuities. But you want to find them. These are the questions you ask. And then with the answers to these questions, you can schedule a second meeting. But in between the first meeting and the second meeting, you can find a specialist. You can find someone that knows how to sell these products, knows how to give proper recommendations, to case design it with you and come to the second meeting with you. So if you're brand new to the game right now, like Marlene right now, you just got your license. You've not even made one sale yet because you just got it. By the way, round of applause, right? She got her license in a couple weeks. These are the questions you want to ask. You have money put away. How much? Is that money in an IRA, a 401k, meaning is it qualified? Or is that money sitting in a checking account, savings account? Right? So how long are you willing to let that money invest for before you need it? That's what long-term hold is. Well, I'm in my 40s. What's that money for? It's for retirement. Oh, okay. So you don't need that money in the next 10 years, 15 years, right? No, I don't. Okay, I know what your hold period is. How old are you? I'm 40. Okay. How much risk do you want to take on that money? Do you want to take massive risk where you can make a lot of money or lose a lot of money? Or do you want to be a little bit more conservative with it where you can make money when the market goes up but not lose money when the market goes down? Learn that. And after you invest that money, are you going to have some money remaining liquid to cover any short-term immediate needs? Yes, I am. Okay, perfect. Boom, 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 boom. Get their date of birth. Make sure you know the state that they live in, because that's important. Some annuity products aren't available in certain states. Come back with that data. Ooh, VP, listen, I got a case. Can you help me out? This is what I found. I need help. Case designing. Now you can actually put together something and meet with them for a second meeting. Does that make sense? Yes? Yes? This, if anything, if I've confused you today, I'm very cautious when I give annuity training because it could confuse people. There's so many moving parts. If there's anything that you could say to yourself, I learned this, it's this right here. Learn this. Because the rest of the stuff will come with field training, okay? But learn these main questions. Let me close off by giving you my annuity presentation. I'll open up for some Q&A and then finish. I call this my 4 Ps presentation. Why? What's the P stand for? Personal Private Pension Plan. Mr. Client, have you ever had a pension plan, something that pays you a lifetime stream of income? No. Does your 401k offer it? I'll answer that for you, Mr. Client. No, it doesn't. I'm going to show you what my clients do called a personal private pension plan. How does it work? Here's how it works, Mr. Client. This is today. This line right here represents retirement. We'll call it 65. This line right here represents life expectancy. We'll call that 100. This line right here represents money. So here's your money. Whatever that dollar amount is, there's your money. If this right here represents retirement, the one thing I need you to understand is that from this period to this period, this is known as the accumulation years. This is where you're earning money. You're earning money. You have no desire to tap into the money. That's your earning period. This period of time to this period of time is your distribution period. This is when you're taking money out. Okay? Now, when you put money into a personal private pension plan, if it's an indexed fund, right? If they say, well, what's indexing? You know, remember 3 graphs, explain to them indexing, right? Here's how fixed works. Here's how variable works. Here's how indexing works. I'm sure you do that, right? Fixed is what? Safe, predictable, but the negative is you're not earning a lot of money. The stock market, you can make a lot of money, which means you're going to get a rate of return, but you can lose a lot of money. Indexing says, hey, you're going to earn money when the market goes up, but you're not going to lose money when the market goes down. That's what indexing does, right? Like you should have already done this presentation before you did any of this. Anyway, okay? So I get back into it. I go, so during this period of time, your money's going to grow according to that index that we talked about, which means if the market goes up, so does your money. If the market goes down, you're going to flatline. The market comes up, you're going to recover and go back up from where you last left off. You know what that means? You're not responsible for losses. Your money grows like a staircase, just like this, right? Now, during this time period, I work with companies that are going to charge you anywhere from 0 to 1%. And a good amount of the companies I represent only charge you 1% during the positive years, not during the negative years. Notice that I'm telling a story as I'm drawing it. I want them focused in on the story, right? Now, Mr. Client, when you hit retirement right here, you're going to have 2 choices. Choice number 1, take a lump sum of money and leave. Take this number and leave. Go somewhere else, reinvest it. You knew throughout this entire period of time that you were never losing money when the market crashed, and the worst thing that happens is you might have paid 1% on a positive year, right? Take your lump sum and go somewhere else. Or option 2, which is what most of my clients do, is they take a payout, a paycheck for the rest of their life. Tony, what do you mean the rest of your life? Here's what I mean. When you take a paycheck, your money starts to go down the hill like this, which means as you take money, the balance reduces. You take money, the balance reduces. You take money, the balance reduces. Heaven forbid you pass away here, the remaining amount goes to your family as a death benefit, so you're never leaving anything behind for them. You're never leaving anything behind. You leave it to your family. if you don't pass away and you keep taking money, your balance reduces, and your balance reduces, and your balance reduces. And then when you've used up all of your money, and there's zero money left, you ready? They're still going to pay you that paycheck for the rest of your life. You're still going to get that paycheck for the rest of your life, even if you've used up all of your money. Even if you've used up all of your money, you're still going to get that. And Mr. Client, I want you to know, in some states, okay, they give you a third option, and it's a long-term care benefit. If you end up any time in retirement needing a nurse to take care of you because you can't dress yourself, feed yourself, or transfer yourself, whatever dollar amount that is that they're going to give you for the rest of your life, it gets multiplied by 2. You get twice the amount. You get twice the amount. Now, what's the catch is what you might be asking. What's the catch? The catch is that the insurance companies that are offering you these plans, they want a time period commitment from you. That commitment, that time period could be anywhere from 7 to 14 years. If you leave them within any time within that time period, you're going to pay a penalty. But Mr. Client, based on the questions that I asked you, you told me you're in your 40s. You told me you're in your 50s. You have at least 15 plus years before you retire. Is this money for retirement? It is. That penalty to me, in my opinion, is irrelevant to you, but I just need you to know that it does exist. If you take this money before that time period, you're going to pay a penalty. Now, if you need money in the short term, you could take around 10% every single year out without any of that penalty. But again, that's not the goal. I'm not here for the short term. I'm here for the long term. Again, I'll repeat, I'm not here for the short term. I'm here for the long term. And what this does for you, just so you know, Mr. Client, it allows you to get a grip of your money. Grip means I'm going to give you a guarantee that you're not going to lose any money. You're always going to preserve your principal plus your prior year's earnings. I'm going to make you a rate of return better than any conservative investment that you can find. I'm going to give you multiple options for income when you retire. Okay? And I'm going to give you the protection of knowing that if you pass away, you're going to leave behind whatever remaining amount of money that you haven't used as a death benefit. Mr. Client, would you allow me to turn your paycheck into your playcheck? Would you allow me to turn your paycheck into your playcheck? That's my presentation. And then what do? If it's an illegal pet, tear it off, leave it with them. Leave it with them. And I'm going to tell you guys this right now, this 0 to 1%, I give it to you now in this training as a general thing, because I don't know if you're going to watch this video 3 years from now, 1 year from now, 5 years. I don't know when you're going to watch the video. But I will tell you, right now, 2021, we've got plenty of vehicles that have a 0% fee. 0 fees. That is so stinking attractive. Do you know that there's actually indexed annuities that have a 1.5 to 2% fee? Where even though the market don't go down and they don't lose anything, the client still loses money because they paid that fee. We have products that have a 0% fee. 0. So when people go, oh, well, listen, I got my money in the 401k, or I got my money in the brokerage account. Well, Mr. Client, do you know that you're paying fees on that money, whether you make it or you don't? Do you know that the 401k company doesn't have to release to you those fees unless you actually request it? And do you know that that's a law that came into place just less than 10 years ago? Facts. I'm telling you guys right now, 401k companies did not have to disclose what the internal fees were until recently, when the law now requires them to disclose it, but the client has to request it. There's fees internally in your 401k you're paying every single year. So for people who have old 401k sitting with old employers, Mr. Client, it might make sense to move that money out, because you can, in an old employer account, you can't do what? You can't put money in. When's the last time you talked to your advisor that manages that money? Don't worry, I'll wait. You don't even know his name. No, I don't. And they're charging you fees whether you use the money or you don't. Does it make sense to maybe do something like this where you're going to have 0 fees, 0 worry, access to somebody you can talk to on an annual basis, and gives you the option to take lifetime income, which your 401k doesn't allow you. Your 401k only allows you to do this, lump sum. You don't have all the other options. And what I like to give my clients are choices. choices. That's my presentation. Any questions?
Tony,
Yes.
Tony, what are the your favorite companies that have the 0% fees?
I want that to be more of an offline conversation because this is being recorded. So I'm not trying to solicit or talk about any particular company because, again, if you watch this video a year from now, that company might have changed that product. It might not be there anymore. It might have changed their protocol. So today's more about general, but we could talk offline and I'll tell you exactly what I would recommend right now that has 0 fees.
Okay.
Cool. Okay, let me see here. With all the working parts and options, how do you set yourself up to explain annuities to people that have 7 years with you? Had it down before, with people that 7 years with you. I'm sorry, explain that question again, Tanisha. I apologize.
So you were talking earlier that it took you 7 years to really get down all this down pat to be able to talk about it and to do your story presentation like you're doing now. So for a newbie, somebody coming in like me, you know, I'm grasping certain parts of it, but I certainly can't. I understand what you're talking about, but I certainly can't turn around and, you know, spit it out to somebody else like you. So what would you suggest for a newbie to get a grasp?
Let me correct that whole statement I made about 7 years because it took me 7 years to have that many times at bat before I felt comfortable. So why do I say it that way? Something I'm always promoting to everybody. Being an entrepreneur is not a time thing, it's an effort. It's not about time, it's about effort. When you're employed by someone, they promote you based on your tenure, how long you've been there. I've been here 5 years, you've been here 1 year, you're due for a raise, right? It's all about your time that you've been with the company, because even though you might not ever do anything else to excel, you're just doing the same exact task. The time that you're with the company is what determines your value to them, right? Being an entrepreneur is effort. How many times you wanted to go up to bat? So I apologize. I don't want to use 7 years. I want to tell you that it took me a solid, probably 50 cases before I started to feel confident at the level that I'm at right now. And for me, it took 7 years for me to get through 50 cases. You see what I'm saying? So if it takes you 3 years to get to 50 cases, it takes you 3 years. And maybe 50 cases is not your situation. Maybe for you, it's 30 cases, 20 cases. Maybe you have a faster learning curve than I do. What I'm trying to get at is you're not going to learn it on your first, second, third, or fourth sale. It's going to take you a number of times. Now, the solution, Tanisha, is to not go out on these cases by yourself. The solution is simple. Always leverage a field trainer that can go to the field with you. Because there's something I live and breathe. 50% of something is way better than 100% of nothing. The reason I say it is because when you take a trainer with you, they're expecting to have some type of a split, right? They're not going out for free. That's how working as an entrepreneur is, right? Like you know, my brother runs a pressure washing business, right? And he's linking up right now with a couple vendors that do painting, right? So they're saying, hey, listen, let's partner together. I'll do the pressure washing, you do the painting. We'll charge one bill, but we'll do what? We'll split it. We come in like a unit. We come in together so the client doesn't feel like they're buying two vendors. The client's paying one bill, we'll split it. I'll take care of the pressure washing, you take care of the painting, we do it, right? Same kind of concept. You're going out to the field with someone who knows. And what you want is this right here, what's inside their head. You want the intellectual property, right? And you want to be able to go up to bat enough times that intellectual property gets downloaded from that person's brain onto your brain to a level where you could say, hey, I don't need this person any longer. Now I'm going to put the field trainers on alert with what I'm going to tell them. And I'm saying this directly to you, Tanisha. If you're using a field trainer, they've got to do more than just sell the product. It's more than just them presenting and you being in attendance. You got to be there for the case design. You got to be there for the application submission. You got to be there for the underwriting, because all of those things, I cannot stand when a field trainer withholds that information from you because all they want to do is make you codependent of that data. I don't know how to do this part, so I always need the trainer to go out to the field with me, and now the trainer's always splitting business with you. I don't believe in that concept. I want you to learn all aspects, all of it. If I'm bringing you to the case with me and we're splitting it 50-50, then I need to be there for every piece of it. The case design, the illustration, the client meeting, the application submission, the underwriting, the delivery. And I want to see that process, not one time, not two times. I want to see that 10 stinking, 20 stinking times so that I can eventually get to myself to a place where I feel confident in doing it by myself. Does that make sense, Tanisha?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. And guys, just so you know, full disclosure, not everybody that's on here right now, is an agent inside of my organization. Why do I say that? Because, no lie, honest to God, I got a phone call 2 days ago from an agent that's not with us at all, represents a totally different organization, different company, reaches out to me and says, listen, you have a lot of experience in the annuity world. I said, yeah, I do. What's up? Right? I was kind of like, what do you want? What are you calling me for, right? He says to me, he says, listen, I've come across some money. You know, my dad's getting a pretty large settlement. I'm getting a pretty large chunk, and I want to invest in it. And honestly, I mean, I have the licenses, I can sell the products, but I don't know how to do it. Do you mind sitting down with me and my dad and having a conversation? I said, sure, cool, no problem. And I don't say it to boast, no lie. I got off the phone and I talked to my girlfriend about it. I was kind of humbled by it. I was humbled at the fact that there's agents, not even in my organization, that reach out to me and say, hey, can you help me with these types of cases? And on training right now, there's people in the organization, there's people right now that are just here for the education part. They represent totally other different companies, totally other independent platforms, you know, and they're here for the education side of it. And I say this to you because there might be companies that one day offer you higher comps. There might be companies that one day offer you, hey, listen, we don't got to do this. There could be. I say this to you guys with 100% of pure honesty when I say this. Intellectual property has value. Intellectual property has value. I would rather gain the knowledge of being able to do things on my own, even if during that time period of time I'm making XYZ commission, knowing that in the future I can make an even higher amount, but I was able to gain that knowledge. The value of working with an effective closer, an effective seller, that's a priceless amount. That there's a zero comp that could merit that. I learned, guys, and I don't take it away. I learned in a 50% contract. And I had to split that 50% contract for an entire solid year. There's not a single person ever in today's world that could tell me they had it worse than I did. There's not a single. Not a single. I was required first year. I had to do every single case with a field trainer. I couldn't do one case by myself. I was not allowed to. That's not their system. Every case at a 50% contract. That means that when I wrote business, I got 25 and they got 25. You know how many pieces of business I wrote the first year? 105. I wrote 105 before I could go out by myself. And then when I could go out by myself, I want you to know, I went out by myself on insurance cases, but I still brought somebody with me for annuity cases because this right here was not something I was able to grasp within my first year. I wasn't. And it's such value to me because I'm 37 years old right now. I haven't worked for that organization that trained me this way for over 8 years. I haven't worked for that organization. That means that for 8 years after I left them, I've still been able to write millions and millions and millions of dollars of this type of stuff because of what I was able to give up in the beginning. I was able to give up that because I was gaining something that was priceless to me, intellectual property. None of those people right now, whether I have a good relationship with them or a bad relationship with them, which thankfully I have a great relationship with the people who trained me. None of those people right now could come back and say, hey, Tony, give me back what I gave you. Give me back that. They can't. They can never take it out of here. It's here. And now I compound it over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I make a career out of it to the point where I went from being a producer to being a hierarchy builder to now running an FMO. It's that intellectual property. So I say this to every one of y'all. If you're trying to shorten that curve, that learning curve, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Be willing to go out with somebody. Participate in the trainings that we're giving. But this classroom training is 10% of what you're going to learn. You want the 90? Get out to the field. Get to the field and bring somebody with you that knows their craft. That's where you're really going to learn. Anyways, I'm going to let you guys get going. Here's what I want. If you're in my organization, I want your top 2 comments. I want your top 2 comments on the chat. If you're not in my organization, I hope that this training helped and benefited you, okay? And if you're watching the video right now, I just want your comments. Give me your feedback, okay? Again, my number is 239-784-1118. If you want to have a conversation, shoot me a text. We'll set up a time to chat. Have a good one, guys. Be blessed.